Welcome to the second round of the Safety Race British Championships here at Milton Keynes. We're here for the second of 6 rounds here. My name's Alex Goldschmidt. I'm back for round 2, unannounced, but also in the virtual commentary box from where he's located, I'd like to welcome SimSport Racing's very own Steve Proudley alongside me. Steve, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning, Alex. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you very much. And it's a real pleasure to be here helping out today. I'm looking forward to some fantastic racing of what is a very iconic British circuit, Donington Park.
So we have our first of 2 21-lap races around the national circuit here at Donington Park in Leicestershire. 1.957 miles, 3.149 kilometres. And in total, we'll have over 81 miles of racing action here. And after the first qualifying session, it is Kostas Avram that put it on pole position as we get the formation lap underway. 11 competitors. So let's have a look at the grid for race 1 for round 2. So Kostas Avram, posting a 1 minute 14.812, puts it on pole position. Alongside him will be Ben Brown, level with Will Dendy coming into this round this weekend. Sean King and Ben Bennyworth make up row number 2. Alistair Dendy in the number 103 and Tim Lane in the number 19 round out row 3. Chris Wilson in the 68 and Matt Willett in the 48 round out row number 4. Completing the 11-strong grid, we've got Johnny Ashley in the number 9, Andy Malphurst in the number 11 and Terry Sparks in the 292. So we're on the shorter variation circuit here, Steve. But nevertheless, the excitement is still very much palpable, isn't it?
It is, mate. Yeah, I mean, Donington is one of those circuits where it's it's flat out action, and it favours the brave. Down into Redgate, Hollywood, the old hairpin. None of those corners take prisoners if you get it wrong. Absolutely looking forward to some awesome racing. I think there'll be some very tight racing today. Looking at the qualifying times, there's not a big gap between any of the guys. Should be fast and frantic, I'm thinking.
So we are going to have 21 laps of racing here at Donington Park National Circuit for the start of the first of 2 races for round 2. Let's see if Ben Brown can have the opportunity. He will pass Will Dendy in the standings after this round, because Will Dendy not here this weekend. Sean King, amongst others, could be a factor to prove otherwise here. And for that, wondering, what are we using? We're using our factor 2. There is Terry Sparks in the 292 Renault Clio, based on the 4th generation Renault Clio itself, as they now make their way onto the Kostas Avram that's got away very, very sharpishly as the rest of the field filter their way through. Terry Sparks trying to take a very close inside line through into Redgate as they go through Hollywood, down into the iconic Craner curves, and then through into the old hairpin, and it's side by side for 10th position. Very, very quickly indeed as Terry Sparks goes a bit wide, but manages to keep it pinned, ready to go into the old hairpin. Kostas Avram now has a 1.1 second lead over Ben Brown. Then it's Sean King. Bennyworth in the 105 ahead of Alistair Dendy. Rounds out the top 5 positions as they now filter their way through towards McLean's, through Schwantz. Well, they've already got through McLean's, now into Coppice.
Yeah, just Mr. Sparks there, just showing us the track really does favour the brave as he kept it pinned down Craner curves. And obviously these cars do, I would imagine, suffer with a bit of snap oversteer if you start lifting off the power. So, good move from him to keep it down the inside there.
So instead of going through into the Fogarty S's, we now go into Roberts, which is the right-left chicane heading on to the Wheatcroft Straight. 1 lap completed. Avram now has a lead of just over a second ahead of Ben Brown, which was being closed up quite substantially in the initial phases as they go through Redgate for a second time. A really good battle a little bit further down the order, as there is Ben Bennyworth running in the Renault Sport Clio Cup livery. And just behind he's got Alistair Dendy in the body in white Renault Clio just behind as they go through Hollywood down into the Craners. This is the full commitment part of it here, Steve, as that's going to be a great move if Dendy gets it up the inside of the old hairpin. Can't get through as Bennyworth keeps it pinned round the outside. Great show of respect by both drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the tight line on the old hairpin, it's nice if you can get far enough alongside to do it, as we just see a bit of contact there, and indeed Dendy's pushed off there. I'm not quite sure who that was that pushed him off, but he's backwards into the barrier.
Yeah, I think that might have, well, that looked like a very, very bright red Renault Clio. That might have been possibly Tim Lane, who looks to have dropped down a couple of places as a result of that. So Dendy now down into stone dead last as Malpass and Sparks are battling over ninth just up ahead, about 4 seconds up the road thereof. So it looks like Ben Brown is trying to close on Costas Avram, but Avram is just pulling away. Let's have a look at the replay here, and that was Tim Lane. That was Tim Lane. Tried turning right, and I think in that particular occasion, Dendy had the inside line towards the corner, and it span Tim Lane 360 degrees as a result of it. So both of them getting compromised there, and there was no real gap to make that opportunity for Tim Lane.
No, and that all stemmed from them trying to make a move at the old hairpin, because obviously Lane came out of there a lot faster than Dendy, and he closed up on him. The closing speed, as we saw, was a lot faster. So unfortunate.
So we've got now Matt Woolett in our eye lines here at the on the screen for those watching at home in the 48. He's trying to keep ahead of Johnny Ashley, who pulled off, I think, one of the best moves of the season so far back at Brands Hatch around the outside of Druids in race number 2. And I think really we're now starting to get into that rhythm here where the gaps are starting to open up between some of the drivers. I mean, especially when you look at Lane and Sparks in 8th and 9th respectively. That's over that's over 5 seconds between them as they go over the bump heading towards Roberts. So some pretty clean, consistent driving by the majority of the field, but it's a bit of a tricky one trying to get through Roberts because you've got sausage curbs on both apexes, and if you get that wrong, Steve, that can possibly pitch the car into a roll.
Yeah, I mean, once the car's pitched up over those, obviously when the tyres aren't in contact with the tarmac, they're not offering you any grip whatsoever. So yeah, you've got to be aggressive but measured, I think, is the way to get through there as quick as you can. In relation to the gaps that are opening up, so that will suit some drivers, because the opening couple of laps are always a bit frantic, and sometimes it's difficult to get into a rhythm when it's like that. But they'll all be settling down now. They'll all get their heads down and hopefully close up and chase down some of these gaps and put a race on for us. I'm just wondering how much the tyre wear will affect these little Clios around here today.
Well, I did have a chance to speak to Grant from Simply Race, and he said that he managed to have 20% remaining after 24 laps around here at Donington National. So that's one of the biggest things here, as we now see that the gap is starting to close slightly between Costas Avram, who's leading, and we now go on board with the number 22 of Ben Brown, running the Anxiety UK livery once again, as now they head into Roberts. This is a great onboard shot from the roof, and you can just see how much commitment Avram's got, as has Ben Brown, going through the second half of Roberts onto the Wheatcroft Straight. So still pretty good to see that these drivers are trying to keep it clean, but also the conservation. Some drivers, Steve, as we see Avram taking a wide line, turning into to carry the momentum and rotate the car through the corner before you go into Hollywood. And then it's all about who's going to have the biggest amount of guts going through into Craner Curves, because that's full commitment, top gear, full revs, and it's only when you get to the old hairpin that you have to really, really watch it, as Ben Brown runs a little bit close to the inside, and I think there was... Oh, now that was a massive off. Now, was that Sean King? Sean King, I think, has just gone off of the old hairpin. That's dropped him behind Ben Bennyworth, and then Chris Wilson in the 68. That's going to allow Woolett to now get past as a result. So Sean King drops 3 positions after going off just off of the old hairpin. And that's where you don't really want to make a mistake if you go too hot into the corner.
No, and I think that's a prime example of a little bit of lift-off oversteer as well, the way that car reacted. I may be wrong, maybe we'll find out after the race, but it looked like lift-off oversteer to me as he navigated the old hairpin, but then as he went through the other side, he maybe had a bit of a lift to keep it in check, and that's what upset the car's balance, as we see him trying to make a move there. That's not worked this time, but he's going to be fighting into Redgate, I think.
Yeah, that was a really good shot there by Sean King, trying to send it up the inside through the first part of Roberts on the 48 of Matt Woolett, as now they go into Redgate. King's got the inside line, but Woolett's a bit too far ahead, not allowing the 23 to get past. So at the moment, with now on to lap number 6 out of 21, Avram leads by just under 1.6 seconds ahead of Ben Brown. Ben Bennyworth rounds out the top 3. Then it is Chris Wilson, and then Matt Woolett rounding out the top 5. As we go on board with the rear roof cam, as Matt Woolett went a bit wide there, trying to go through into the old hairpin, 2 wheels on the grass on the left-hand side. But, King is keeping with him, and that's really good to see, that even though with that massive off, just off of the old hairpin heading towards Starkey's Bridge, Sean King has managed to keep running, and doesn't look like any issues have compromised the 23's running in this race.
No, it's looking like he's still on maximum attack. Obviously, he'll want to be as smooth as possible to preserve those tyres, as we were talking about earlier, but is tucked up in the slipstreams. We're going to see a replay now.
Oh, yeah, well, he just went, left rear wheel hit the grass, and that was a bit of a hefty right-hand side impact. Luckily enough, not on the driver's side, and he keeps it planted, foot to the floor through the gravel, going in towards Starkey's Bridge, as we now are on lap number 7 out of 21.
Yeah, full commitment, as we was always expect from these Clio drivers. It's a fantastic little class when everything is just so equal and so close.
Yeah, you can just see now that Sean King is closing on Matt Willett, going down through Hollywood into the Craners, and Willett's planting the car where he needs to, but then Sean King goes in towards the old hairpin. That is a great little run there, but the pair are still side by side heading towards Starkey's Bridge. And will King get past? He's gonna have the opportunity to go through Schwantz Curve. If he puts that round the outside, he kept that nicely planted, nicely braked there for McLean's, and he now goes back up into what is 5th position. But still, great commitment from Matt Willett there to go side by side through the Craners pretty much. Yeah,
it's great respect through old hairpin together there. You know, it could have easily ended up with one of them off onto the grass, or even both of them, but both showed fantastic skill and commitment along with some respect there. Fantastic driving.
Good to see that there's a lot of social media interaction, particularly on the YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. Alistair Dendy now back up into 10th place after the contact between himself and also Tim Lane, who's rounding out the top 7. Good showing by Terry Sparks in the 292. He's currently 8th ahead of Johnny Ashley as they now come through Roberts. So the top 10 will now be on to lap number 8 out of 21. And the gap between Costas Avram, Steve, and Ben Brown now starting to dwindle a little bit. It was around 1.6 seconds at its highest. It's now just over 1.2. So Ben Brown really has got the hammer down.
Yeah, it's an opportunistic moment that you mentioned. That I was just looking myself and thinking, you know, that the time is coming down ever so slightly. But as Avram, as the lead driver, again, talking about tyres, do you think he's just settled into a pace and that's him? He's trying to preserve those tyres, and Brown's attacking? Do you think Avram's got something left in the tank?
Possibly. I think if he's doing the conservation now between the mid phase of the race, as they now head their way up through Schwantz Curve, up into McLean's, and you can just see how hard Alistair Dendy is pushing. Oh, now Ben Brown has really started to set the timing screens alight. Purple in sectors 1 and 3, as now Alistair Dendy manages to get past Terry Sparks, and so did Johnny Ashley in the OTL livery there. Good to see that we're having viewers from both Ireland and Hawaii, of all places. Now, that's interesting. Really good to have people from across the globe, as looks like Tim Lane has ended up in the pits, I think possibly for track limit infringements there. If he's been cutting the track too much, that will definitely compromise him. As you can now see, Ben Brown is absolutely pushing like crazy.
He's using all of the track and a little bit more. He's definitely put the hammer down, like you said earlier. Just he's got that gap, and he's looking like he's going to try and close it down and put an attack in the last sort of 10, 11 laps.
I think Costas Avram in round 1 was not very, very lucky. There was no lady luck shining on the number 26, but he's always been good for starts as Avram, and he clearly showed that. He scarpered away. He did a bit of Sebastian Vettel earlier on, as we go on board with the right-hand door of Alistair Dendy, now closing on Johnny Ashley for 8th position. Now, this is where it's going to get a bit brave going through into McLean's. Not this time for Dendy in the 103. So Johnny Ashley putting in a very, very good defensive performance in the number 9 as they now head through into Coppice.
Yeah, it's always a reasonably easy area to defend his McLean's unless the driver's got up alongside you under Starkey's Bridge. You know, you can close that door fairly easily. So I think that move needed to start a lot earlier.
Well, Dendy's thinking about late braking, and he's got up the inside of Johnny Ashley. Now, will he run? Now, that car got very, very much unsettled as he whacked the sausage curbs on the second phase of Roberts, but still kept it planted. Incredible commitment there. And we saw that from Sean King, that he nearly got that moved on Matt Willett a couple of laps ago. So,
that's the beauty with front-wheel drive cars, though, isn't it? If you can keep it pointing in roughly the right direction, the front wheels are going to pull you in that direction. So yeah, it got unsettled, but best thing he did there was kept it planted, and he's got the job done.
Yep, that's very true. And now he's trying to extend a gap as they go through into the old hairpin and just up ahead of Alistair Dendy. Oh, he nearly had a Sean King moment there going off into the barriers, but he kept that one well and truly planted on the tarmac. So Avram now only has about a 9/10 of a second lead. That looks to be dropping all the time because Ben Brown is really, really pushing like crazy. You did definitely say that, Steve, that he was not wanting to hold. He's not holding back at all. As we've gone past half distance, we're on lap number 11 out of 21. So, yeah, just really good commitment from a lot of the drivers. And Donington Park is one of those circuits that when you get it right, you really, really feel a sense of reward.
Yeah, you do, and it is a rewarding track to drive. There's not many drivers out there that don't like it in the racing world, in the sim racing world. It's a very rewarding track, and the corners, more than most tracks, are really linked together as we talk about the moves. They've got to start them 2 or 3 corners early, and one bad corner can lead to 2 or 3 following bad corners. So yeah, it really is a rewarding circuit because hook one corner up right, and you've probably got a whole section right.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you go through Redgate, you go through Hollywood. Funnily enough, the second corner name here at Donington Park is the nickname of a multi-time FIA World Rallycross and World Rally champion, Petter Solberg. So Ben Brown really looking close as the 2 leaders now make their way through Roberts. The game is very much on between these 2 as they cross the line now onto lap number 12. And that gap has absolutely been decimated by Ben Brown in the last couple of laps also.
Yeah, I think Brown's going to really tuck up behind Avram down Craner Curves now and maybe look at following him through the old hairpin and then moving to McLean's, as we were saying earlier. Maybe, that's be his best game plan from here, I think.
Yep, so they go through into the right-hander at the old hairpin, up the slight incline towards Starkey's Bridge.
Avram's certainly making him work for it. He's not really giving. He's just sticking to his line and getting his points right. And it's all down to Brown to try and get the job done. It's all right getting caught up. It's all right tucking in behind, but trying to get that pass done, it's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah, it's one thing. When you're doing the chasing, it's a lot easier to just concentrate your blinkers on the person in front. But then when you have to get in front of them, as we're now seeing them. Great slipstream here for Ben Brown going into Roberts. Avram puts on the brakes through into the first approach. They both bump over the sausage curbs on the right-hand side. And the gap now is getting under 0.2 of a second. Lap 13 now completed. Right on the back bumper is Ben Brown. Heads towards the outside of Redgate. Will he try and do the switchback? They go side by side through the corner. But Avram still has the punch in order to keep ahead of Ben Brown as they head through Hollywood. Great clean exchange between the pair of them.
Yeah, but the lap times are going to suffer now. But third place is probably about 7 seconds back, so I think they're fairly safe. It's just a battle for first and second here, as we see Brown is still tucked right up behind Avram as they come up under Starkey's and into McLean's.
Yeah, through Schwantz Curve they go, the 2 leaders. The gap between them just over 0.2 of a second. Ben Brown doing everything in his power to get past Costas Avram as they now head up the dip towards Coppice, which is effectively a double right, and then onto Starkey Straight.
Yeah, Avram's really got to think about his lines now, because like through Coppice, it's do I defend or do I go for the ideal line? Because obviously not going for the ideal line is going to compromise your speed down the straight. So he's really having to think about where he puts
little touch on the back bumper for Costas Avram, courtesy of Ben Brown. I think he might have just had a little bit of outbraking issue there going into Roberts, but now they go across the start-finish line. 14 laps completed out of 21. Ben Brown again to the outside of Costas Avram going through into Redgate, takes a tighter line through the corner, but I think Avram, he's about half a car length ahead, make that nearly a full car length as they go through Hollywood, down into the Craners. Ben Brown side by side with Costas Avram through the Craner curves. Will he get the job done before the old hairpin? He's going to get the inside line. Oh, and he runs wide. 2 wheels on the grass. Costas Avram keeping himself out of harm's way. But Ben Brown now takes the lead on lap number 14. But Costas Avram not having any of that whatsoever.
Yeah, has Avram got enough left in the tank? Can he take it to Brown now and put an attack on him almost straight away? So I think that's what he needs to do, because looking at the pace that Brown had to catch Avram, Brown may have the pace to pull a bit of a gap on him.
But in the bottom right-hand corner, so in the bottom right-hand corner of your screens, you can see Tim Lane in 7th being closed down hand over fist by Alistair Dendy as the two leaders now battling going into Roberts. Avram trying to have the lead. Oh, a little bit of a touch between right rear corner of Brown and the left front of Avram, and that compromises the latter. So Ben Brown will now have a bit of a big gap going over the line as we see Tim Lane and Alistair Dendy going now towards Roberts over the bump. And these two are very, very closely competitive. They're about less than half a second apart as they go through into Roberts. Nice and neat and tidy by the pair of them. A little bit of sausage curve taken there by Tim Lane in the number 19, but they are still battling away like it was no tomorrow. And they now head their way into Redgate. Dendy a bit deeper on the brakes going through into the corner as they now head through Hollywood. Both using as much curb as they dare.
I was just going to say, Dendy used the pit entrance there, as a lot of drivers do, just to make the track that bit wider for the turn in there. It's certainly not helped him on this lap. He's still got that gap between them, but he's pushing very hard. As we see there, he's using all of the track and a little bit more, and closing in, just trying to get the right moment to make that move.
Very, very true indeed. So lap 15 of 21 of race 1 for Clio Cup round 2 here at the Simply Race British Championships. So Ben Brown leading by just over 1.4 seconds from Costas Avram. Yellow in sector number 1. Now I'm wondering what has happened there. Has someone had a little bit of an off-track excursion? Well, that's briefly been retracted. As now the two leaders making their way through Hollywood on board on the left-hand side of the number 26 of FMP's Costas Avram, down the hill through into the Craners. And this is a great angle here, Steve, just to give an idea of how much commitment you need. Going through the Craners now into the old hairpin.
Yeah, it's absolutely flat out down there. It's an awesome experience driving down the Craners.
Right, well, it looks like we're going to find out the yellow at sector 1, and that was Terry Sparks. Oh, completely Scandinavian flick coming out. Well, he managed to control it and put the car back on the tarmac, and that was what brought out the yellow in sector number 1. I think that might have been Andy Malpass that just went past. So...
Almost trying to replicate Petter Solberg, I think, from your previous comment, maybe.
Or maybe even Stig Blomqvist. Who knows? But again, I've just been noticing, Steve, that the gap now, it is one thing to get the lead. It's another thing to keep it entirely. Ben Brown's doing a fantastic job at the front of the field, but Costas Avram has been starting to close the gap, but the laps are quickly running out here.
Yeah, I mean, Brown's got the lead now, so I think he'll be settled there. But again, it'll be interesting to know at the end, maybe in the interviews, how the tyres have worn. Has he taken a lot out of his tyres to close that gap on Avram? Has Avram got something left in his tyres? Who knows? But the gap is pretty, well, I say consistent, but I think it's actually stretching out maybe a tenth or two as we're talking. But the gap behind Bennyworth is 5.7 seconds behind. I'm reading now, I think.
Yeah, so in many respects, Ben Bennyworth doing a great job in 3rd position. Sean King, meanwhile, has been pushing again and is trying to catch up with Chris Wilson up ahead in the number 68. The pair separated by about 1.5 seconds or so. And that gap seems to be just extending between the two leaders here, Steve. It's now it's 1.8 seconds between Brown and Avram. So maybe... I think Ben Brown might have been conserving early and then managed to get the run on Avram when he needed to. And then now he has that opportunity to conserve the tyres, go at a very, very consistent but consummate pace as we now complete lap number 18 out of 21.
Yeah, I mean, let's say he's just doing what he has to do. He's settled into his pace, and maybe at the beginning of the race he got caught up in a battle, and Avram, as you said, he's made good starts in the previous round, and he got a good start. He settled down, and Brown's just got the pace on him, so he's doing what he can do now and just putting the laps in and extending that lead. And I think Avram's fairly safe in 2nd place with only we're on lap 18 of 21 now.
Yep, as we see Chris Wilson in the 68 just send it Clio, now heading his way through into the old hairpin. followed by Sean King in the number 23, who started on the inside of row 2 when we went lights out just over 18 laps ago. And it's been quite enthralling seeing some of the battles up and down the order throughout the course of this first race. Race 2 will be coming up very, very soon after this one, once we've had a chat with the top 3 drivers.
I mean, Mr. Brown's not done his championship any harm at all, just looking at the table at the moment. He will be climbing up there. Obviously, Dendy, who he's sharing the lead with at the moment, he's down in 8th, so he's...
Well, that's Alistair Dendy, not Will Dendy, so
okay.
We don't need to... Yeah, Will Dendy not present at this round. I think he's got other commitments, which has not allowed him to compete with us here this particular weekend. So the second round out of 6, which concludes on December 20th, which I will be back in the saddle for the final round of the season, where we head to Brands Hatch GP circuit. After this, we'll have Croft on the 18th of October. There's Andy Malpass in the number 11, still rounding out the top 10 positions. So October the 18th is Croft, November the 8th is Alton Park, then it's Snetterton 300, the penultimate round, on the 29th of November, and December 20th is Brands Hatch Grand Prix, which will be round 6.
Some fantastic circuits coming up there. I mean, Croft is a local one to me, being a North Yorkshire lad, so look forward to watching that one.
I'm sure you'll have your cup of tea at your side, ready and waiting for you.
Black cap and whippet at the ready.
There we go. Said like a true Yorkshireman there, my friend. So here is Matt Willett rounding out the top 6, 27.1 seconds off of the current leader, Ben Brown, who is very, very much in case of extending his championship lead. And in many respects, Costas Avram will jump up the table from 8th position, probably towards the top 5. But then you have to look at who is a little bit further down the order. This means that Chris Wilson and Sean King could be very closely interlocked for what will be, I think, possibly second place, as they're on lap 20 out of 21. So this plus one additional lap to go in the first race of the morning. We'll have 3 touring car races a little bit later on today to whet your appetite, as obviously the British Touring Car Championship is currently competing at Silverstone. The Adiatsir Total 24 Hours of the Nürburgring has got back underway after a hefty, lengthy red flag conditions due to weather conditions at about 7 o'clock UK time this morning. But we want you to focus your action on what's happening right here. Here's Johnny Ashley in the OTL number 9 Renault Clio, heading through Hollywood down into the Craner Curves. And you know what you were saying about whether Costas Avram has saved a little bit of those tyres? I think he has, Steve, because the gap now is closing to just under 1.6 seconds as we're on the penultimate lap of the race.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of factors there. Obviously, Avram could be just putting in the same lap times, and Brown may have eased off now that he's on the last lap, and he's just concentrating on bringing it home. But fantastic job from all the drivers. Some good racing, some good, close, respectful racing, and certainly whet the appetite for the touring cars later.
So Ben Brown and Costas Avram make their way through the Craner Curves for the final time. Lap 21 out of 21. Just around about 1.2 miles still to go as Ben Brown now makes his way through the old hairpin in towards Starkey's Bridge and then Schwanz Curve through into McLean's. Great composed drive from him at the front of the field, having taken the lead on lap number 14 out of 21. So Ben Brown looking to get his day off to the perfect start possible here in race number 1, as Alistair Dendy has just served a pit. That was a drive-through penalty for what I would think track cutting. So that's automatically regulated by the system software on R-Factor 2. But Ben Brown now brakes for the final time into Roberts, into the right, into the left, round the final corner. The number 22 of Ben Brown takes the opening race for round 2 of the Simply Race British Championships here at Donington Park National in fine style, ahead of Costas Avram. Oh! Now, this is what you didn't want to see on the final lap. It's a drag race to the finish because Ben Bennyworth has taken 3rd. Who's going to get 4th? It is going to be, looks like, Chris Wilson has just pipped Sean King as they both came out of Roberts side by side. Sean King takes 5th. That was definitely a fantastic way to conclude their race, wasn't it?
That is Clio racing at its finest, absolutely door-to-door through the final corner. Brilliant stuff.
So, looks like Matt Willett takes 6th, Tim Lane in 7th. Johnny Ashley comes out of Roberts for the final time and will take 8th in the number 9 OTL liveried Renault Clio. And then you will have, not too far behind, looks like Alistair Dendy will take 9th, ahead of Andy Malpass in the number 11, who completes the top 10 with Terry Sparks, who managed to get up the as far as 8th position, if memory serves me correctly, to round out the top 11. So hopefully very shortly I'll be popping down to the interview booth to speak to our top 3 drivers very shortly. Well, let's have a chat with our top 3 for race 1 of the 2 races we've got here at Donington Park National. Firstly, many congratulations, Ben Brown. A really, really good dice between you and Kostas in the early phases, with you taking the lead on lap number 14. Firstly, I need to ask you, how difficult was it conserving those tyres around 21 laps here?
Very. I think me and Kostas were lucky in the sense that we'd kind of broken away a little bit once Sean made the mistake. There was a bit of a gap, so we could just kind of manage it. But then, yeah, just to be able to manage the tyres, I didn't have much left at the end, and be able to get past, it was very difficult.
Now, obviously, you now take a little bit of a further lead in the standings after round 1 back at Brands Hatch a few weeks ago. Must give you a pretty satisfying feeling now to know that you've got to be able to sort of start building that gap. Obviously, Will Dendy not here this week, but also you've got to look at the rest of the competition, you know, like, say, Sean King, Chris Wilson. Obviously, Kostas now is going to help his title push with a second place finish here today in race 1.
Yeah, definitely. You can see from qualifying how close everyone is. So everyone across the grid is really, really close to each other. So trying to get these points on the tracks that I'm better at before we get to some of the ones where I'm not so good, then it is really important at this stage.
Well done, Ben. Congratulations with a race 1 victory. Good luck for race 2.
Cheers.
So next up, we'll go to Kostas Avram. Kostas, a really, really good start at the beginning of it. You did a bit of a Sebastian Vettel like you did back in the days at Red Bull. But Ben was able to keep pace. How was it with regards to the tyre conservation from your side of things?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough, you know, as Ben said, if you push too hard, then you just start going through your front left. So I just tried to keep a happy medium of pace and tyre conversation to last the end of the race.
So obviously now coming into this round, you were 8th in the standings. Obviously the first race meeting wasn't exactly the greatest for you. I know that you could have been at the sharp end of the grid, but now the hard work really begins. Obviously, a second place here. How are you feeling ahead of race 2? Because obviously, again, you start from pole position.
I'll just take it as I did this one. So hope to get another good start and try and keep a pace. Pace quick enough that will keep Ben behind me.
Well done, Kostas. Congratulations on a second place finish and all the best for race 2.
Thank you very much.
Last but by no means least, Ben Bennyworth started from what was 4th position, but managed to take 3rd at the end of it. Ben, great job out there. Good to see you with us here at Simply Race. Just tell us how things went from your perspective. Okay, well, it looks like he stepped out of his pod, but we'll be back in just a couple of moments' time with the start of race number 2. Another 21 laps, another 41.1 miles around here at Donington National. So we'll be back in just a moment's time. So we're back for race 2, another 21 laps, and here is your grid. So once again, starting from pole position is the number 26 of Costas Avram, and we will this time have Sean King alongside Ben Brown. We'll start from the inside of row number 2, and we'll have Chris Wilson alongside. Alistair Dendy has now had to dash off with regards to a family emergency, so Alistair, hope everything's all okay and hope everything gets sorted out. Ben Bennyworth will line up alongside Matt Woolett on row number 3, followed by the number 19 of Tim Lane and the number 9 of Johnny Ashley, who complete the top 8 positions. And we are now down to 10 cars, so rounding out the grid will be Andy Malpass in the number 11 and the 292 of Terry Sparks. Very interesting conversations I had post-race with both Ben Brown and Costas Avram there, Steve, with Costas saying, actually, when we were speaking, outside of everyone being out of their pods or out of their relevant positions, Ben had 20% remaining on his tyres and Costas had 15% left on his tyres. And it seems like the slipstream really does hamper the degradation on the tyres, especially when you're trying to close up to go for the overtake for the lead or relevant positions out on circuit.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the slipstream or if you're losing any downforce in any of the corners, obviously it can create a bit of understeer, which will scrub the tyres more. There's various factors that'll affect them. But I mean, I think the overriding factor with tyre wear is just down to driving style, to be fair.
Very, very true. So the field now makes their way through Roberts on the final phase of the formation lap here at Donington Park National Circuit. Just under 2 miles in length, 1.957 miles, 3.149 kilometres, so another 41.1 miles or 66.13 kilometres of racing to conclude round 2 of the Simply Race Clio Cup, part of the Simply Race British Championships. If you haven't signed up, why not? Join us by going to simplyrace.co.uk/SRBC to find out how you can get involved. So it looks like they're all on the starting grid. The revs will start to build as they see the lights. The revs rise. As we now wait for them to go out, and we will be racing for the second great start once again by Costas Avram. He just absolutely launched it. But now it is going to be King and Brown side by side into Redgate for the first time. Bennyworth and Wilson side by side as well going into Redgate, as Brown looks to have taken second position. Bennyworth now up into 4th place behind Sean King. Chris Wilson rounds out the top 5 as they go through Hollywood for the first time. Down into the crane is Tim Lane. Matt Woolett round out the top 7, all hurtling their way down.
Looks like Ashley got turned up in Redgate there. Just saw that on the picture-in-picture. But again, like you said, Avram, absolutely fantastic start, nailed it, got that bite point just right, got the revs just right, and really, I think he gained a couple of car lengths straight from the start.
And it's quite interesting that when I see some of the drivers come out of their pods, some of them are actually wearing racing boots. Costas Avram, no exception on that one, amongst others, as they now hurtle their way through Coppice. And then they'll go on to Starkey's Straight, as looks like Sean King is starting to close on Ben Brown, who in turn is closing on Costas Avram. But this is where it's going to start hurting the tyres a little bit. I mean, considering the fact that how close Sean King is to Ben Brown as they head through Roberts for the first time. Lap 1 now about to be completed. Costas Avram did have around about a second lead initially, as Malpass and Ashley here side by side. Ashley goes to cut the door shut, and all of a sudden gets turned around by Malpass. I'm not too sure whether that's a racing, so it looks like it was a driver's error there rather than a racing incident. So that's how they see it. Yellow in sector 1. Once again, I'm wondering what's happened there, as it looks like Sparks has dropped down to 10th behind Ashley, but a lot closer this time around. It seems like both Brown and King have got a bit more of a gauge on what Costas Avram might be doing here. Let's have a look at this replay. This is Terry Sparks. He goes through Redgate, runs a bit wide going through into Hollywood. Spins the car around. It's a repeat of what happened to him through Old Hairpin at the last race there, Steve.
Yeah, he just took to a little bit of grass on the exit there, and that was just enough to unload the car and turn it around. But yeah, I mean, they're all a bit closer this time out, but obviously they've had a race to measure each other up. They know what works and what doesn't work, and they'll certainly, I expect a closer race this time with a little bit more action, as we're seeing Tim Lane going up the inside there. He's not quite committed enough for that one, but he may get the switch back, but it's looking like Wilson's got the measure of him.
That's very much the case as we now go on to lap number 3 out of 21 here at Donington Park National. Tim Lane trying to close down on Wilson in the 68. They go through into Redgate. Lane has to put on the anchors early to make sure that he doesn't compromise himself and have a tagging match with Chris Wilson.
Yeah, for me, that just showed that Wilson was 100% confident in his braking distance there, because he didn't even attempt to block that door. He just took his normal line, braked at the normal point and defended.
So through the old hairpin, Tim Lane still keeping within half a second of Chris Wilson in the battle for 5th position. Matt Woolett, in the meantime, is starting to close them down. Here's Ben Brown. He's about 1.2 seconds behind Costas Avram. Then you've got Sean King and Ben Bennyworth rounding out the top 4 positions. The top 4 covered by just over 3.3 seconds. As they now go through Coppice, we go on board with Matt Woolett as they now head down Starkey Straight.
Yeah, as we saw in race 1, the gap of 1 and 2 seconds, even 3 seconds, isn't enough with the Clios. It can all close down all too quickly.
So down into 3rd gear, through the right and through the left, into Roberts, as they now come across the line. Now onto lap number 4, and you can see where the gear selector is, the gear indicator is on the dashboard. You can see how quickly they are getting through the lap. So effectively we're on lap 4, but it's 3.1. That's 0.1 of a lap completed as they go through into Hollywood. Now down into the Craners, another 0.1 added. So it just racks it up by tenths of the circuit. And this is just a real good showing here, Steve, of how much of a steep incline there is going through the old hairpin into Starkey's, into Schwantz Curve, and then into McLean's at the right-hander, before they go through into Coppice.
Yeah, I mean, just as Redgate is absolutely crucial to get a good run down Hollywood Craner curves into the old hairpin is absolutely key to getting that run through Starkey, Schwantz and then McLean's. As we were talking about in race 1, the corners are it's so important to get them just right, otherwise it does affect you for 2 or 3 corners, and all of a sudden you could soon lose half a second and even a second at worst case scenario.
So we are about to go on to lap number 5, as that is a hefty amount of commitment through Roberts by Matt Woolett, whacking the sausage curves on the left-hand side, going through the second half of the chicane.
Yeah, that will have cost him a little bit of time, I would imagine, there.
Mm-hmm. But Tim Lane still keeping pace as Chris Wilson looks to have a bit of a lock-up going through Redgate, through into Hollywood, down into the Craners. Tim Lane, now, barring obviously the first incident between himself and Alistair Dendy in the first few laps of the race 1, Tim Lane has definitely got his house in order.
Yeah, he's got the pace. He's certainly taking the race to Wilson at the moment, and I expect to see him making a move in the next sort of half a lap to a lap, and I think he might get the job done.
Yeah, looks very, very close there, going through into Schwantz Curve and then into McLean's. Tim Lane got a better run out of the corner, and he's having to go to the left when Chris Wilson goes to the right.
Yeah, that could compromise his run down the straight now. So let's see how they get on here.
So the pair nearly side by side as they go down Starkey Straight over the crest into Roberts, and the way that Tim Lane has positioned that car is going to make it very, very difficult for Chris Wilson to keep ahead, but he does for the moment. Oh, Matt Woolett absolutely closed up completely unannounced there, going through the first half of Roberts, and he's got right on the back bumper of Tim Lane as they cross the line. That was a great showing by the number 48 there.
Yeah, that just goes to show what happens when you've got 2 cars battling and the lead car is having to defend. It really does slow them down, and that just gave Woolett an ideal opportunity to close up in the braking there, and he's right in this battle now.
So 3-way scrap for 5th place, and they are covered by less than a second as they go through the old hairpin.
Absolutely awesome shots as they come through the old hairpin there, almost on 3 wheels, just drifting ever so slightly, full commitment, flat out, don't lift off, just keep it going. It's brilliant to watch.
Yeah, you can see that sometimes the right rear wheel will actually stop rotating if they commit hard enough through the apex of the corner.
Yeah, it's so important with these cars to get the corner speed bang on, because when you're going through the corner, the last thing you want to be doing is lifting off. As we said before, it's the forward motion that keeps them going, so you need to keep that pedal pinned.
Yeah, well, I'm just keeping an eye on who's keeping the pedal pinned at the front of the field, and once again it's Ben Brown. He's closed up to Costas Avram to around about 0.8 of a second between the pair, as Matt Willett fancies his chances going towards the outside, heading into Redgate. If he pulls this one off out of the bag, be like a magician with the rabbit out of the hat, and he's making Tim Lane work for that position.
Yeah, all the time they're just giving Wilson a chance to pull away a little bit.
And side by side between these two, down into the Craner curves, and looks like Willett has got ahead for the minute, or has he, going into the old hairpin? Lane goes up the inside, the pair rub door panels, and fully planted on the throttle through the outskirts of the old hairpin goes Matt Willett, and keeps 6th position. That was bravery at its finest.
Yeah, you're not taking that. Thank you very much. It's mine.
Shut that door, as they'd say. But Ben Brown now really closing up once again, and this is a lot earlier in the race than we saw in race 1, where Ben Brown managed to get the job done by the completion of 2/3 of the race. So through on lap number 14, he took the lead from Costas Avram and started pulling away, and had pendulum swing around 1.5 seconds after he was 0.3 behind Costas Avram, and managed to get into the toe at the right point on the circuit. So in many respects, that just shows the tactics that you have to bring into this, Steve, as well, when it comes to tyre degradation on these Clios.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, and also, with this being the second race, there's no surprises left. Whatever move Brown puts on Avram, or attempts to put on Avram, he's going to be ready for it. And he didn't make it easy for him in the first race. So I'm sure we're in for a good battle, as we've seen a couple of good battles throughout the field this morning.
So there is Johnny Ashley. It seems like his livery is catching the eye of many people commenting on YouTube at the moment. I love it where you get a nice bit of colour differentiation, then a bit of dark black to really set it off.
Yeah, it does stand out. It's standing out from the crowd, as it were, and he's putting some good laps in.
So he's currently in 9th position at the moment. A little bit of a gap between him and Andy Malpass, who rounds out the top 8 positions. And Malpass, in the meantime, is starting to close a little bit on Tim Lane. He's still trying to battle away with Matt Willett in what is 6th position. So the two leaders cross the line, and we are now on lap number 9 out of 21. Still very much even Steven between these two at the front here, Steve, but I will be honest here, Sean King isn't that far adrift.
No, it'd be very interesting if he can make it a 3-way scrap, but Avram, as you say, we've just seen Tim Lane there making a move.
Yep, through Redgate on Matt Willett. Willett keeps it pinned. They go through Hollywood. Now down into the Craners. This is a repeat of what we've seen between these two over the last couple of laps or so, and for the old hairpin, if Tim Lane can get himself further alongside Matt Willett, he's going to go up the inside and take 6th place. The pair rub door panels. Oh, there was no give there. No quarter given at all, but Tim Lane runs a little bit wide going through Starkeys, but manages to keep it pinned around the outside towards Schrunt's curve, and now takes 6th place.
Yeah, it looked to me like he just leaned a little bit harder on him that time, and didn't give him the opportunity to come back on in front, so to speak. He kept it pinned himself, just leant on him a bit harder, and got the job done.
Yeah, very, very true. As the leaders they're fast approaching the completion of lap number 9 here, so we'll go on to lap number 10. As now, look at Andy Malpass here, Steve. He's closing up on this duo of Lane and Willett. They're still feverishly battling away like a couple of petulant children over P6. They're definitely not giving any quarter to each other, and I think Andy Malpass, he just needs to sit behind and have the ringside seat and wait for something to happen.
Yeah, if he can just get within striking distance, so to speak, and just sit there and watch the battle unfold, I'm sure an opportunity will present itself, and he could maybe potentially jump up 2 places in one move. Let's keep an eye on it. Very,
very true there, Steve. Well put, I must say. There was no shortage of commitment there from Matt Willett going through the old hairpin at all.
No, but like you, I'm just watching that gap between Avram and Brown, and I have to say Avram in this race he's certainly doing possibly a slightly better job than he did in the first race. If you remember, Brown really closed up on him very, very fast, and was within a tenth or two within once he started closing within a couple of laps. So Avram's responded well, and he's just keeping that gap just big enough not to give Brown an opportunity yet.
No, because they seem to be taking the same sort of racing lines going through Roberts, as now we are past halfway of this race, onto lap number 11. We go, and Costas Avram has a lead of about just under half a second from Ben Brown as they go through Redgate, now into Hollywood, down into the Craner curves. Again, I think Avram, he's just positioning that car where he just needs to in order to keep Ben Brown at bay. And one of the biggest things we both know, Steve, is that once you see a car closing on your back bumper, the first thing you're going to do is start looking in those mirrors whilst trying to keep your car perfectly put on the track, so to speak.
Yeah, as we've seen Willett coming down Craner curves into the old hairpin. Fantastic shot now on board just to see the commitment and to see if he's going to get an opportunity to make a move. But it's not looking good at this time as we come up through Swans Curve and into McLean's.
Yeah, right on the back bumper, over 70 miles an hour, third gear coming out of McLean's up the hill, heading towards the double right through Coppice. Line astern between the pair, Tim Lane and Matt Willett battling still once again over sixth position. And whilst they've been battling away, they've actually managed to pull a gap over Andy Malpass in the number 11 in 8th place. But Willett just looking at every which way he can to try and get past Tim Lane, who gets into Roberts first once again. Good battling between these two.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's fantastic when you see, as we said earlier, as you see, cars, identical cars, battling away. It's so close, and it's just down to the driver. It's awesome to watch. Fantastic. As we've seen, Ben Brown's close right up on Avram now, and he's full send through the old hairpin just to stay on the tail there. So it's looking like he's going to be getting ready to make a move should the opportunity arise. But I think Avram's going to have him covered.
Yeah, well, around about this point in the race last time, when we had our first race, it was the same sort of situation that we saw between these two. Good afternoon, Dave Hedges, in the SimSport Racing ID there.
Just going back to what you were saying about looking in the mirrors, I mean, we always tell anybody when we're sort of within our community, when we're trying to advise any of the new sim racers, we say to them, race your own race, don't look in your mirrors too much, look forward, look where you're going. And that's all good up until this point. When you see Ben Brown and all that Avram will see in his mirrors is a windscreen. He's that close that he needs to watch the mirrors because he needs to start defending now as they go into Redgate side by side.
But Avram keeps ahead for the minute. Ben Brown using the track and then some going through, and he's now going to take the lead once again, going through into Hollywood. Pretty much a repeat of what we saw in race one, but Avram this time a lot closer, because one of the biggest things that I remember from the last race, it was the old hairpin, I think, that Ben Brown overtook Costas Avram. But again, I cannot believe my eyes. Once again, Ben Brown gets past Costas Avram a lap earlier. That has happened, and now he's pulled a gap of nearly 0.7 of a second. As we go back to Tim Lane and Matt Willett, that was a great move by Ben Brown, but also I have to give Tim Lane a lot of credit in this race because he's been doing his fair share of attacking and defending, as has Matt Willett.
Yeah, two drivers obviously showing each other a great deal of respect, but also just a measured amount of aggression, and they keep attacking each other and defending hard, attacking hard, which is resulting in this fantastic close racing we're seeing, and it's great to watch and a credit to both drivers.
So the gap on what is now lap number 14 between Ben Brown and Costas Avram is just over, it's anywhere between 5 to 0.7 of a second, but Avram is not allowing Ben Brown, I think, to get away as quickly as what happened last time. As we go on board on the bottom right-hand corner on the rear roof cam of Ben Brown, who's got Costas Avram not too far behind. They're now going through the old hairpin as Tim Lane and Matt Willett make their way down into the Craner curves.
Yeah, well, the other difference for Avram this time, again, as opposed to race 1, is he's got King very close behind him. In race 1, he had a 6 or 7 second gap at one point to third place. This time, it's only 2.3, so he's got to be aware of that as well.
Yeah, and Avram now deciding he wants a race victory. He doesn't want to settle for second like he did in race 1, and this is where he's making that decision that possibly could cost him in terms of tyre deg, but Ben Brown now realises that, well, I did manage to do the number on him in race 1, but race 2, it's not so certain this time around.
No, both drivers pushing very hard, and obviously both drivers want that win, but it doesn't matter whether you're fighting for the win or not, as Woollett and Lane are showing us, 6th place is just as valuable to these drivers as they're pushing it to the limit and racing very, very close. As we're seeing Woollett still, as he has been lap after lap, stuck to the bumper of Lane at the moment.
Yeah, they're now heading through into Redgate. Lane has got the inside line as Woollett manages to get the nose of his Clio up ahead as they now go side by side once again through Hollywood.
Fantastic.
Great spatial awareness by the pair of them. Tim Lane still has the lead in terms of 6th position at the minute, as now, once again, Woollett gets his nose in front. Lane has the inside line going into the old hairpin. The right rear slightly locks up there. Woollett makes a mistake, runs a little bit wide coming out of the old hairpin. That allows Tim Lane to have a bit of breathing space.
Yeah, they're making a habit of side-by-side down the Craner curves, and it's great to watch them, both drivers showing each other fantastic respect, but yeah, as you say, Woollett just ran too wide there and lost a good sort of second, I would say, there, but I'm sure he'll be back.
I definitely would concur with that statement, Mr. Proudley, Ben Brown makes an absolute hash of both curbs going through Roberts, and that is allowing, look how close Costas Avram is now. He is chasing him down as we now go back on board with Ben Brown. Into Redgate we go. Brown manages to close the door on Avram, but Avram will take a wide line, trying to get a bit more run and momentum coming through into Hollywood and then down into the Craner curves. Great racing between the two leaders once again, but this time it's a lot closer than it was in race 1.
Yeah, that was a prime example. Brown there attacked the curbs very, very hard, and he just totally unsettled the car. Avram attacked the first curb quite hard, but managed to miss the second one, and that gave him a better run out the corner to get him where he is now. And that will certainly be keeping Brown awake, and he'll be starting to look in his mirrors at the moment.
Yeah, one of the other things, Steve, is that look how far behind Sean King is. He's not that far adrift. And then you've also got Ben Bennyworth, as they were on the same bit of straightaway, the top 4 at the same point on lap number 16. But,
yeah, just referring back to those lap times, I mean, King's been about 2.3 seconds back the whole way, so I think he's just maintaining the same lap times as the two leaders.
Yeah, so in many respects, it's going to be quite interesting, I think, in the latter stages, as Avram just not letting Brown go whatsoever. We will find out how things do proceed. So it's going to be. I think Costas Avram's got the measure of Ben Brown this time. Wouldn't you agree, Steve?
Yeah, I think he's sort of. I don't know if I agree he's got the measure, but he certainly is there taking the fight to him. You know, he's not letting him go. I'm not sure he's strong enough to put a move on him. I think he's relying on Brown to make a mistake, and he's not quite close enough to keep him under enough pressure to force that mistake. I think it'll be a mistake of Brown's own doing if one happens.
So we're on lap number 17 out of 21 as the two leaders make their way up towards Coppice, through into the double right. And yeah, Avram's just got a real better momentum carry through Coppice there. He's got a real good run going over the crest, heading down Starkey Straight, and Ben Brown knows he's coming. So the Avram freight train is in full effect at the moment.
Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job. He's putting him under pressure, but while these two are battling, it is allowing King just to sort of keep hold of them. He's sort of within that 2 to 2.5 second sort of window behind them, and he's just tagging onto the back. If these two start battling hard, it could allow him into the battle.
Yep, so through Redgate come the leaders through into Hollywood once again. Gap between them about 0.3 of a second as they go down the dip into Craners. Yeah, no edge being given by either driver. No one's putting their, bringing out, they're keeping their cards close to their chest here going through the old hairpin. But Avram, I think, is just trying to keep pace with Ben Brown, and this is helping him no end, because this could provide us with the grandstand finale here at race 2.
Yeah, Avram's, like I say, he's doing a good job. It's very, very difficult to follow close. As we've said before, to be the chasing car's the easier job, but once you've caught up, driving that close, staying that close, without making contact is no easy job at all, and Avram's making it look easy. He's doing a fantastic job. He's really tucked up now. He may just get into the braking zone here, but he's going to be forced to the outside.
Yeah, let's just see what happens as they break into Roberts, and Brown wallops the curbs once again, runs wide coming out of the final corner. Avram gets a really, really good run. The pair are nearly side by side as we go on to lap number 19 out of 21. Avram to the outside, Brown to the inside, heading into Redgate. Who's going to get through the first corner first? It is Ben Brown, but Kostas Avram takes more than a bit of just a little bit of curb. He took a bit of grass there too, but at least the two left-hand side wheels were still on the tarmac.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. Avram really taking it to him now, and I was nearly going to eat my words and saying that I didn't think Avram was going to force mistakes. He nearly did. Right,
let's go to a replay. This is Tim Lane and Matt Woolletts as they now go down into through Hollywood and into the Craner curves. So they'll go into the old hairpin. Now Matt Willett, let's see how late he breaks into the corner. Goes in. He's going to run wide. Oh, full foot to the floor there. Still managed to keep it through, but Kostas Avram once again. We're into the dying throes of the second race for round 2 of the Simply Race Clio Cup, part of the Simply Race British Championships, being broadcasted live from our facility here in Milton Keynes. And Ben Brown, this time a little bit neater coming through Roberts, as was Kostas Avram. So the gap's still closing here, Steve. We're going to go on to the penultimate lap of the race, and Avram's got a real good run coming out of Roberts.
Yeah, Avram seems to have Roberts nailed this race. He makes time up every lap on Brown. Brown seems to take it away from him. McLean's, Coppice, Starkey's, Straights, he seems to come out of there with about a half a second gap, but then Avram always, last 2 or 3 laps, Roberts, he's closed up. So we see him tucked up right behind now, side by side. There's going to be contact. No, the slightest touch there as they just went down the Craner curves. That was awesome.
And again, we get the side-by-side showcase of Tim Lane and Matt Willett still battling over 6th position on the penultimate lap of the race. But Tim Lane manages to get ahead of the 48 as Willett nearly runs a little bit wide. Loses the back end, but catches that Scandinavian flick absolutely perfectly through the old hairpin. Great job there by the number 48.
I nearly put money on him losing that, then he did a really good job to collect that and keep it going. Brilliant, fantastic.
I was waiting for the defibrillator to be put on standby here at Simply Race, just in case, but it's been enthralling all the way through this second race.
Let's just see if Avram can close up again, as he does look on the brakes going through Roberts, and he's not closed up as much that time. I think Brown made a tidier job of it that time, and in fact he's actually lost a little bit of time. So just keeping him honest at half a second back at the moment.
Yeah, so on to the final lap of race 2. 20 laps completed. We're now going through the Craners for the final time. And if Kostas Avram wants to do something, he's really, really going to close up in the next few corners, going through the old hairpin, through into Starkey's, through into Schwantz Curve. It's been an interesting battle, and I'm going to be looking forward to chatting with a pair of these two post-race. But yeah, Kostas Avram kept Ben Brown on his toes after he lost the lead on lap number 13 to the number 22. But they come through in towards what will be Coppice very, very shortly for the final time. And then on to the Starkey Straights. But let's see if both Brown and Avram keep it clean, or will one throw all caution to the wind and wallop both sausage curves on the final lap. But Ben Brown can't afford to do that, because the way that Kostas Avram closes up onto him, it could be a case of once bitten, twice shy. And that's what's happened, because for the second time today, Ben Brown in the 22 once again takes the checkered flag, flashes the headlights on the Mark IV Clio Cup car ahead of Kostas Avram. Good showing by the pair of them. Good consistent points finishes as well, as Tim Lane keeps ahead of Matt Willett, who locks up the brakes going through into the apex of the first part of Roberts. So Avram will take second. Sean King takes third. Ben Bennyworth rounds out his showing here in the Simply Race Clio Cup with a 4th place finish ahead of Chris Wilson. Tim Lane takes 6th ahead of Matt Willett. Andy Malpass in the 11 takes 8th ahead of Johnny Ashley in the number 9, who rounds out the top 9 positions as Terry Sparks now makes his way through in towards the final parts of the circuit. Down Starkey straight over the crest he will come.
Yeah, I don't think Avram will mind you saying that he probably made a better job of that race. He really did keep Brown honest for the whole of the, once Brown got past him, Avram didn't let him go, and in fact he actually kept him under a lot of pressure, which was great to see, and good respectful driving from those two, as well as Lane and Woollick giving us a good show in that race. Some great stuff down the Craner Curves, old hairpin, brilliant driving.
Well, that concludes the action for round 2 of the Simply Race Clio Cup. I'm going to now head down to the interview booth to speak to our top 3. And Steve, we'll close up in just a couple of moments' time. Right, let's have a chat with our top 3 for race 2 of round 2 of the Simply Race Clio Cup, part of the Simply Race British Championships being held here at Milton Keynes. Firstly, Ben Brown, 2 for 2 this today. Well done, great job, but it was ever so much closer this time around. Costas kept you on your toes, didn't he?
Yeah, just couldn't shift him this time. Got past a bit quicker, and I think burnt out the tyres a little bit faster. So that, yeah, it was really close all the way to the end. So really good racing.
Yeah, very, very true. But this helps your championship lead no end heading into the next round 3 of the season. Hand on heart, it must be a really satisfying feeling to do the double here at Donington Park National and go into Croft with a bag full of motivation and a bag full of confidence and bragging rights thereof.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, winning both races and pulling away in the championship's excellent. Just got to keep it through, and I can't even remember what the next round is, but keep on going at the next one.
Yeah, so all the very best of luck for the next round at Croft. Okay, next up, 2 for 2 once again for Costas Avram. 2 pole positions, leading. You did your characteristic textbook start getting away from everyone and pulling at least a 1.1 second lead going into Redgate, Costas, but you made Ben fight for that second victory, didn't you?
Yeah, I'd learnt from the first one, so didn't push quite as hard the first half of the race. Kept some tyres left for the second half to give Ben a good race.
And obviously, this now helps you in terms of the championship standings. I think probably by my reckoning, you might be now in the top 5 heading to Croft in just a few weeks' time. A bit more of a better round this time around for you, following the difficult one you had at Brands Hatch. How does that make you feel now, having that opportunity to now sort of be in the sharp end of the field?
Yeah, it's good. Obviously, the first round didn't quite go my way. Kept my nose clean through this one. So, yeah, lessons learnt and moving on to the next one now.
Congratulations, Costas. Well done. Last but by no means least, Sean King, a 3rd place finish in race 2. Sean, obviously, after the difficulties in race 1, but to bounce back and to get a podium must be well worth it. Well, I didn't quite hear what Sean actually said there, but Sean, congratulations, well done, all the very best of luck for Croft for round 3. So, Steve, some very good, interesting points from both Ben Brown and also Kostas Avram, our 2 first and second place finishers, respectively. Some great action here for round 2, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And as Avram was saying there, he learnt his lesson from race 1 and just saved a little bit of tyre, which produced an absolutely awesome race for us. You know, and there was a couple of guys throughout that field were racing really close, and it was a good showing.
Very, very much the case. So that's it for round 2 of the Simply Race Clio Cup. They will join us once again for round 3, which takes place at Croft on the 18th of October. So on behalf of Steve Proudley and myself, Alex Goldschmidt, we have got the touring cars coming up. 3 barnstorming races, and it's looking to be a very interesting one. Join us on the official Simply Race British Championships YouTube channel. For further action still to come. Thank you for joining us. Stay safe, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.